Before we get started making our cowboy candy, I want to make sure you put on surgical gloves or you will regret your decision not to wear them. Your hands will be on fire. I used the 125 milliliter bottles, which are tiny but the perfect size for candied jalapeno peppers. We are going to prep 2 cases of these jars and the lids. So put your jars in the oven and turn on your oven to 250 degrees, and we'll sterilize these for about half an hour or so. While your bottles are sterilizing, you can prepare your water bath, which will happen after you fill your jars. You can put your lids in a small saucepan. They need to be warm when you put them on. You don't want it to get too hot so it melts the rubber, but you want them warm to put them on top of your jars. Today we're making cowboy candy. So, step 1, wash your jalapenos and cut the ends off. Okay, step 2 is my time-saving trick. I take the cut end, I put it down into my food processor, and I jam the between 3 and 6 jalapeno peppers standing on their head. And then I just pulse it down. And I'll try to do this. There we go. And you have perfectly cut jalapeno peppers. Oh, time-saving trick. My food processor has 2 thicknesses that can be cut. This one's a thinner and this one's the thicker. So I use the thicker for the jalapeno peppers. So the recipe calls for about 3 pounds or 8 cups of jalapenos, but I do more like 12 cups or so of the jalapenos. Then we have 2 cups of apple cider vinegar, 6 cups of sugar, half a teaspoon of turmeric, half a teaspoon of celery seed, and 3 garlic cloves chopped. Or if you don't have a chopper, I just use a grater such as this. So get yourself a large pot, and you're going to add in your cider vinegar, 2 cups, 6 cups of sugar, and all your spices. The original recipe calls for cayenne pepper, but I don't add that. It's spicy enough. And we're going to bring this to a boil. So once you get your syrup to a nice rolling boil, you can turn it down and simmer it for 5 minutes. Okay, so we've been simmering for 5 minutes, and we are going to add our peppers and simmer for another 5 minutes. So it took a few minutes for the peppers to kind of come back up to a simmer, and then you do it 5 minutes from there. You can see some of these peppers are still kind of that vibrant green, and you want them a little duller green. So I'm just going to let these go for maybe 1 more minute, and then they should be good to go. So since our peppers are ready, we're now going to take our sterilized jars out and fill them with the peppers to 1/4 of an inch from the top. Okay. So you just scoop up the jalapenos and let them drain out. And then fill this I fill it fairly full. Can you see there? When you take this sleeve off, it looks full, but then I take it and give it a few taps, and it goes down to right where you want it. Go. So once our jars are filled, and that made about 17 small jars, we're going to crank up the heat and get this to a full boil, and then simmer it for another 6 minutes to thicken up the syrup. And yeah, make sure you go at least the 6 minutes. The thicker the syrup, the nicer it makes the final product. So our syrup has had 6 minutes to thicken. So now we are going to take the thick syrup, and I am going to place it in a pouring container, and we're going to add it to our jars. So I'll just show you how that's done. Okay. So you still want to leave a 1/4 of an inch from the top. So basically, you add your syrup, and then you just give the rim a little wipe for any nasties that came off, and then you just take a plastic spoon and just make sure there's no kind of air bubbles. Just stick that down the side, and then you put your lid on that is in the hot water, and you put the sleeve on top, finger tight. Okay, once all your jars are in the bath and there's about 2 inches of water above the jars, we are going to let those boil for 10 minutes. So set our timer for 10 minutes. And there we go. Our Cowboy candy will be ready to cool. Once your jars come out of the bath, you can either put them right back into the boxes or put them on a towel, but they're going to sit there for the next 24 hours just settling, but they should start to pop pretty quickly. If any don't pop for you, then you should put them in the fridge and use them right away. And what I mean by popping, if you press on the center of the lid, it should be solid. If you can press it and it goes up and down, then you don't have a good seal. And those will go in the fridge and you'll eat those immediately. The rest can be saved for a good year. And, well, they never last that long, but you can save them for a year. One last thing about your Cowboy candy is the hardest part of doing the canning is actually once they're canned and they're ready to go, you have to wait 2 weeks before you eat your first batch for the best flavor. At this point, you can, once they've sat for 24 hours, you can put a label on them and put your best before date 1 year from today. So there was a little bit of syrup left over. You can almost do anywhere between 12 and 16 cups of the jalapeno peppers, and you'll have enough thickened syrup to do all your jars.